I'm Barbara Bowen and I'm your worship associate this morning. We're happy to welcome you here for our first Sunday of Black History Month. I'm really looking forward to our sermon this morning by Reverend Don Cameron titled Eating a Lot of Geese. I'm really looking forward to seeing where he goes with that title. So let's get started by turning this over to David Netchus, our music director, for our opening hymn.
Good morning, everybody. It looks like it, so I think that's good news for most people's spirits. We are opening up with hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit. Jerry Goldman is going to sing it, and we've got it all ready to go. So please join in at home.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle the flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather here who celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Thank you, David and Jerry. And now we'll have a few announcements from our board member, Ted Newton.
Good morning, everybody. This morning, coffee with the minister for visitors will be conducted today via Zoom following the service. There will be a Zoom link in the chat at the end of the service that you can use to access the informal discussion. The parents group will meet today at 12:15 after today's service. The UU Monday Meditation Group gathering will meet online tomorrow evening, Monday, February 8th from 7 to 8:30. Contact Elizabeth McNabb or Melanie Roberts for information. And individuals who are interested in meeting in person in church on Monday nights should get in touch with Chris Garcia and let him know as soon as possible by today. He will then meet there with them on Monday, and at 7 p.m. Monday, Chris will tune in to the Zoom meeting that Melanie and Elizabeth are hosting elsewhere at the same time, and a hybrid meeting, which be part Zoom and part mask-to-mask, can take place. A reminder that there's a 14-person limit in the sanctuary that is enforced, and a face covering is required to enter into the church building. The Wednesday evening exploration group will be finishing discussion of Isabel Wilkerson's book Cast. And if you're interested in this discussion, please contact Jan Parsons. They will meet at 7 p.m. via Zoom this Wednesday, February 10th, and look for information about the next topic in your e-announcements. The UU Goddess group will be meeting Thursday, February 11th at 6 p.m. Please contact Jezebel Annette for more information. The Humanist Free Thought group will meet next Sunday evening, February 14th at 5 p.m. online, and contact Frank Carl for information. Also, the youth group for middle and high school youth will meet next Sunday evening, 14 February from 6:30 to 8 via Zoom. Check your e-announcements for that web link. And check this week's e-announcements for contact information for these groups and others you may wish to register for. There's also a link, of course, to the UU calendar. They'll let you know what's going on at the church during the week and the month. Now, the church does remain at phase 3 of its reopening guidelines, which are posted on our Facebook page, that allows groups less than 15 to meet in the church in appropriate rooms under our reopening guidelines. Please let your board's liaison and church administrator know if you wish to meet in the church. The reopening team closely monitors the 7-day moving average of cases in Aiken, Richmond, and Columbia County, which are decreasing, by the way. If this does rise above our set threshold, the church will go back to phase 2, and the face-to-face meetings in the church will have to stop. And they will make you aware of our weekly reopening phase in the e-announcements, and the leaders of any planned church meetings will be immediately notified. Please get immunized against the seasonal flu. It's your best defense to prevent getting flu for those ages 6 months and older. Free COVID-19 immunizations with the Moderna vaccine continue to be offered by the East Central Health District for Georgia in groups 1A for residents that are 65 years and older, or for healthcare professionals. Information on how to register online or by phone to call is in your e-announcements. And whether you're immunized or not, continue to perform hand hygiene, wear your face coverings when outside your home, socially distance, and stay home when you're sick. Of course, these measures prevent the flu and the coronavirus. Thank you very much.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and his words are as telling today as they were when he spoke them. The hour is late, the clock of destiny is ticking out. It is trite but urgently true that if America is to remain a first-class nation, she can no longer have any second-class citizens. And now, our joys and sorrows will be received by Jan Parsons, a member of our pastoral care team.
This is the time when we join together to share our joys and sorrows that have come into our lives over this past week. We always remember first those members who can't be with us. We remember also those in our armed services and who are particularly serving abroad and their families. If you wish to participate, look for the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. I will recognize you, and let's see.
I just wanted to drop a couple of stones myself for two friends of mine. One who lost a friend of 20 years to COVID this week. And in better news, another friend whose colon cancer surgery has been a complete success. Thank you all. Go into our meditation now. When we think about Black history, we often think about American history. But Black history started long, long before America. It goes back to the beginning. back when we were not black people or white people, but had just become people, back to when we all began in Africa. We are kin from our very beginnings, and it has been the prayer of many that one day we will repair this relationship and become as one family again. So for the meditation this morning, I want to offer something that I came across that moved me very deeply, and I hope it will be meaningful to you all as well. So please sit back and relax your body, open your heart and expand your soul, and let us all pray together. This week, we watched in the news as a group of amateur investors ran the price of a stock up to absolutely incredible levels just by investing in it and continuing to invest no matter what anyone told them the real value was. Now, the company itself had done nothing to increase its value. In fact, the smart money was betting against it. But the price stayed high as long as the investors continued to purchase it. Now, our church is not on the stock market, but there are some similarities.
Are you contacting us?
The market would probably not value our stock very highly, but the real assets of our church are its people. And the time, energy, and money that we put into it is what keeps its value high. So, today we are going to offer you an opportunity to invest a little bit more in something that we all believe in. If you would like to contribute, you can go to the website that'll appear on the screen or in the chat room. And we thank you for your continued faith in our community.
We begin with a fable. Excuse me. We begin with a fable. It comes from African American folklore. One day, Brother Fox caught Brother Goose and tied him to a tree. "I'm going to eat you, Brother Goose," he said. "You've been stealing my meat." "But I don't eat meat," Brother Goose protested. "Tell that to the judge and jury," said Brother Fox. "Who's going to be the judge?" asked Brother Goose. "A fox," answered Brother Fox. "And who's going to be the jury?" "They're all going to be foxes," said Brother Fox, grinning so that all his teeth showed. "Guess my goose is cooked," said Brother Goose. The fable's lesson: racism is racial prejudice plus power. Racism is a form of oppression that includes not only racial prejudice, but also the exercise of power by one racial group over another. Why? In order to maintain and enhance the advantages of the oppressor group. It's all about an imbalance of power, about a dominant group and a subordinate group. Racism is racial prejudice plus power. Now, I'm a proud American, but I am ashamed of the new faces of the old Jim Crow that plagues our nation. The scandal of America's prison industrial complex that is disproportionately black, brown, and poor and continues to grow irrespective of actual crime rates. The new wave of voter suppression made possible by a 2013 Supreme Court decision that removed a key component of the Voting Rights Act. The alarming rate of minority teenage deaths resulting from their unarmed confrontations with police, which has given rise to the movement Black Lives Matter. The hard realities African American attorney Brian Stevenson reveals in his book Just Mercy. Innocent women and men, mostly people of color, incarcerated, waiting on death row. Waiting on death row as innocent. And the recent attempted coup at the U.S. Capitol, with Confederate battle flags flying on the steps and inside its hallowed halls. We'll come back to the insurrection later on. These are some of the new faces of old Jim Crow. It appears the foxes are having trouble letting go of their power. They're eating a lot of geese, hence the sermon title. I commend to you a book, Racial Healing, Confronting the Fear Between Blacks and Whites, by Harlan Dalton. He's an African-American professor at Yale Law School. Dr. Dalton insists that racial healing will never come if we do not confront each other about race. We must take risk. We must make ourselves vulnerable. We must say to each other in mixed company all the things we're not supposed to say in mixed company. We have to let it all hang out, our fears and our hopes. This is tough to do. White folks like me often hesitate because we're afraid we're going to make a mistake, say something stupid, or worst of all, come across as racist. The truth is, white people will probably do all these things, and people of color will do them as well. Openness and honesty are the tools we need to bring about healing and reconciliation. Long-lasting wounds must be opened and cleaned out and allowed to breathe, or the infection will grow worse and the wounds will fester. Racial healing can only take place if there is honest engagement and a commitment to the struggle. As the ex-slave and abolitionist Frederick Douglass said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters." Engagement and struggle about race. This is what it will take to reclaim our cities. This is what it will take to rescue our own souls and to restore the soul of our nation. Are we willing to make the effort? I have long been accustomed to thinking of African Americans and other people of color as racially disadvantaged in a lot of ways: employment, education, housing, and so on. Now I take seriously the implications of the corollary of that principle, that because I am white, I am racially advantaged. Membership has its privileges, to quote an old American Express advertisement, and I'm dating myself. Because I am white, I go to the head of the class. I am judged by the color of my skin. For example, I know that if I want to move or need to move, I can probably find housing I can afford in an area where I want to live. I can dress down or not answer my emails without having people attribute these choices to the poverty or the illiteracy of my race. I can wander into an off-limits area of a restaurant or an office without being suspected of stealing. People do not say I'm a credit to my race when I do well in a challenging situation. Nor are they afraid of me when I walk the street late at night. I am white and therefore privileged. These privileges confers on me certain advantages, many of which I like. But, and here's the point, the rub, so would other people who are not white if they had these advantages. Now, this is not about things I earn because I work hard or things I achieve because of my talents. It's about advantages that are mine because of my race. From this viewpoint, racism is not about whether I'm guilty of discrimination or prejudice or bigotry. It's about whether I want to preserve the advantages which come to me simply because I'm white. It's about whether I continue to develop the attitudes and beliefs necessary to support those privileges and keep them coming. It's about the link in our culture between power and race. And this link was on full display at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, a violent attempt to overthrow an election, so to preserve white supremacy and all its privileges. I truly believe we are in the midst of a third Reconstruction. The road ahead will not be an easy one. Our nation is divided by race. What would this nation look like if we reached the promised land of which Dr. King dreamed? What would Augusta look like? What would this congregation look like? I don't believe all the colors of all the races will someday be blended into an anemic shade of gray shared by all. That's not the promised land. To obliterate our racial identity would also cut us off from our history and our individuality. I do believe, however, that the people of this nation will either get there together or will not get there at all. We need to talk with each other, with our neighbors, about these things, about what we hope for and what we fear. We need to talk with each other about our dreams, like the American dream that one day justice will roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. When that day comes, we won't be afraid to walk the streets. Children won't go to bed hungry. Everyone will have a roof for shelter and a bed for sleeping. This will be a glorious day for everyone. I leave you with the African-American author, James Baldwin. It is a mighty heritage, this human heritage. It is why one must say yes to life and embrace it wherever it is found. Nothing is fixed forever and forever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to ground down rock. Generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold one another, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. See the light, be the light, bear the light, share the light, be faithful torchbearers, and be blessed. David?
No, Cheryl has come online, so you can call on her for her reading.
Cheryl?
Yes.
You can do your reading now.
Okay. Excellent. I know we're doing things a little out of sequence, but it is what it is. Anyway, I would like to read an excerpt from the essay "They Say the People Could Fly" by Cheryl A. Giles. Stories of resistance, transcendence, and collective liberation are deeply embedded in African American oral tradition. The survival of these stories enable closer examination of enslaved men and women's relationships to the horrific, violent slaveholders unleashed upon them. These stories, and others like them, make for excruciatingly painful but necessary reading. Understanding the meaning of freedom requires grappling with the quote, dangerous memory of slavery, unquote, where Black bodies were destroyed. Recalling torture, lynching, and sexual violence is indeed both powerful and dangerous, and remembering is necessary for uncovering and claiming the loss of millions of enslaved Black men and women, people who were despised and treated as inhuman, people who never became beastly. Myths and folklore are tools of healing and resistance. For example, the myth of the Flying Africans, which relates to events dating back to 1803, was passed down from generation to generation. It was a narrative of West African Igbo people who were captured and transported in overcrowded and squalid conditions across the Atlantic by cargo ship to the coast of Georgia and South Carolina to be sold as slaves. According to the legend, when the ship landed and the Igbos realized they were being sold into slavery, they rose up, broke out of their chains, and abandoned the ship. Walking along the coastline, they began singing and chanting. By exercising their moral agency, the Igbos demonstrated resourcefulness. They were not victims to be pitied. Resisting confinement, they refused to stop dreaming of what was possible for them beyond slavery. Refusing to be sold, some drowned themselves to avoid capture. Others took flight back to Africa. Indeed, in some oral accounts, the Igbos grew wings and soared above their confinement, daring to embrace freedom and refusing to surrender. The renowned children's book author Virginia Hamilton offers a different rendering of this narrative, calling it The People Could Fly. Hamilton's version opens with the following preamble. They say the people could fly, say that long ago in Africa, some of the people knew magic, and they would walk up on the air like climbing on a gate, and they flew like blackbirds over the fields, black, shiny wings flapping against the blue up there. Then many of the people were captured for slavery. The ones that could fly shed their wings. They couldn't take their wings across the water on the slave ships. Too crowded, don't you know? The folks were full of misery then, got sick with the ups and downs of the sea. So they forgot about flying when they could no longer breathe the sweet scent of Africa. Say the people who could fly kept their power, although they shed their wings. They worked with other folks in the field. All the workers heard the sting of the overseer's words. They all felt the snarl of the driver's whip around their legs. They all felt their clothes being torn to rags and their legs bleeding onto the earth. But one of the slaves remembered the ancient words that were a dark promise, the words that would allow the slaves to fly again. Seeing one after another of his people falling from the heat and the brutal forced labor, he raised his arms out to them and cried out, Kum, Kunka Yali, Kum, Tambe. There was a great outcrying. The bent backs straightened up. Old and young who were called slaves and could fly joined hands. They would ring sing. They rose on air. They flew in a flock that was black against the heavenly blue. Black crows on black shadows. It didn't matter, they went so high. way above the plantation, way over the slavery land. Safe, they flew away to freedom. In Hamilton's version of the tale, the Africans left their wings in their homeland when they were transported to America and enslaved. Brutalized by violence, the Igbos called upon their endowed power to fly away to freedom. Because of their deeply held faith, they believed the loss of freedom was more catastrophic than dying. With freedom came the awakening that the end of suffering was possible. Drawing upon the metaphor of flight as a tool for liberation, the people could fly, and other folk tales demonstrate the resilience of slaves in finding freedom and safety for themselves and others.
Thank you, Cheryl. David?
Thank you, Cheryl. I add my thanks as well. Our closing hymn is hymn number 30, traditional spiritual, Over My Head, and our singing is led by Melanie Larson.
Our closing words are from Frederick Gillis. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, in us and among us, now and always.
Thank you. Every month, every post a different African American composer, and our first composer for this week is Scott Joplin, which I know most people know. And at the turn of the 20th century, he was known as the Ragtime King. Very important and influential composer. composer. He composed in many styles. He even wrote an opera, Treemonisha, which is performed all over the world. And today our postlude is one of his famous rags, the Easy Winners.
Further back.